Hey guys, it's Blaze right back with more Genshin Impact. Today's video is a guide on Zhongli, who, after his improvement, is in the must-pull category. In the current roster, the only ones I consider as must-pull are just Venti and Zhongli. Other 5 stars like Ganyu, Xiao, and Albedo only get a strong endorsement from me, but I wouldn't categorically consider them as must-pull. Rather than just doing a short video recommending people to pull for Zhongli, I would just do a quick guide on Zhongli. I hope you guys will enjoy the video. The structure is very similar to my other guide videos and they are all timestamped as usual. Without further ado, let's start with the pros and cons. Starting with the pros, Zhongli has the best shielding in the game. The universal shield buff on Geo shields make this shield relevant to all the game's contents. In terms of usability, Zhongli can now produce the shield without being interrupted in the process. This is the bulkiest shield in the game that can be refreshed every 12 seconds. Next, the shield offers practically the best universal defense shredding in the game. While the effect is not as good as Viridescent Vanera, the usability makes this arguably better than Viridescent Vanera. It is often not practical to rely on Viridescent Vanera to proc on the element that you want. This is also currently the only way to apply the same buff as Viridescent Vanera to Geo and Anemo elements. Because the shred is universal, a team that has a strong damage source coming from both the main DPS and the sub DPS will have both of their elements' damage improved. Next, the bulkiness of the shield means Zhongli can potentially replace the healer spot. Having a shield that can effectively block 15k damage or more, depending on the situation, it is often possible to replace the healer spot with Zhongli. Next, a very important point is that uninterrupted DPS can be very important for frame-sensitive DPSs. The reason why shielding can be more important than healing is because some DPSs are very prone to a huge DPS loss when they get interrupted, namely DPSs such as Hu Tao, Xiao, and Ganyu. So in this way, Zhongli's shield can often be considered as an indirect DPS boost in making sure that their strings of attack don't get interrupted. Another thing is that he can potentially be relatively cheaper to build, in that a 3-star weapon is also a viable option when you run him as a ShieldBot. Other advantages include a very generous iframe count on Ultimate is true CC, significant improvement over Geo MC for Geo Resonance bonus. At the end of the day, the reason why Zhongli and Albedo are great Geo units is because they are incredible replacement of Geo MC. This is highly relevant when you care about using Ningguang as the main DPS. Lastly, he's the best Geo shield breaker and he's extremely flexible. Zhongli actually has very few cons, but here's a short list of them. He has no cleanse, which for a support unit can be quite a big deal to not have. The CC is very short, and with how short the CC is, you often wonder if you're better off not using it. Also, Zhongli's ultimate has such a lengthy duration, it's often a DPS loss, despite its amazing damage scaling. And lastly, his energy generation is mediocre at best. Let's move on to Zhongli's role. He has 3 possible roles: physical DPS, ShieldBot, and BurstSupport. Personally, I think the best role is as a ShieldBot. As a physical DPS, there are better options available such as Kaching, Razor, and Kea. For BurstSupport, this is okay, but it only shines in a quick swap team. Ideally with at least 2 Geo like Ning or Albedo, maybe a Venti and a Flex 4th. Zhongli has a very high damage scaling on his ultimate, but it requires a heavy investment not just from Zhongli but the entire team. Let's now take a quick glance for Zhongli's Constellations. I personally don't recommend going higher than C0 because he can fulfill his role well at C0, but let's discuss them briefly for those who are chasing his Constellations. C1 allows you to have 2 Steelies in the field at the same time. The best thing about this isn't the damage coming out of it, but the energy produced, which is one of the weaker aspects of C0 Zhongli. C2 allows you to shield up by casting your ultimate. It's a huge time reduction for shield activation. C3 buffs his E. This is Zhongli's weakest constellation because you don't need his E to be at level 13 to be effective. C4 increases AoE plus 2-second petrification, which is a great utility constellation, making the CC last to a maximum of 6 seconds. I think that will make his CC a lot more justifiable. C5 is a strong buff to his ultimate, which is a much better deal than C3. C6 enables Zhongli to be a healer. I think it has an ambiguous value because if you build Zhongli, sometimes you can even forgo the need of healing. The forced healing can also interfere with Hu Tao's damage, so enable this with caution. I think the only poor constellation in Zhongli is C3, so yeah, if you're chasing after his constellations, generally don't feel bad about it, but I'm giving C6 a red flag until there's a way to toggle it off and on if you use Zhongli with Hu Tao. Let's move on to Zhongli's builds. 3 separate builds for 3 separate roles. First, Zhongli as a physical DPS carry. Recommended weapons are any 5-star or Crescent Pike. In fact, if you ever refine 5 Crescent Pike, it can be better than even the 5-star Staff of Homa, unless you are at below 50% HP, so sticking to a Crescent Pike is actually a safe choice. For main stats, build him like a typical DPS, except you have the choice to go for HP percent instead of attack percentage on the sense. You will get more damage from attack percent, but not by a mile. So if you have HP percent artifacts with great substats, it can be better than attack percent sense. The best set to go is 4-piece Gladiators, but it's hard to farm, so you can use 2-piece Bloodstain or 2-piece Baleflame to complement the set. Talent priorities is straightforward: auto attack, ultimate, elemental skill. For substats, the most important stats are crit, attack, HP. Let us now move on to ShieldBot support Zhongli. The recommended weapon, yes, you're not seeing it wrong, is a 3-star Black Tassel, and for a 4-star maybe you can consider using the Favonius Lance. The reason for this is the only stat that matters is HP, and Black Tassel is the only weapon with HP as its substat. I'm recommending Favonius Lance as a way for Zhongli to offer slightly more than just shielding. It solves his own personal energy problem as well as offering more team-wide energy generation. The main stats are very straightforward. Only use HP percent artifacts whenever possible unless you are on Favonius Lance, where you should aim for crit rate. The best artifact sets is a new set, 4-piece of Tenacity of the Millelith, or alternatively the 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. The talent priorities is obviously elemental skill, ultimate, and then auto attack, but you can actually make do with just leveling his elemental skill. For substats, HP is the only one that matters. The next best stat is energy recharge. If you're on Favonius Lance, then you should aim for 50% crit rate and then HP and then ER. I have simulated several scenarios for Zhongli's effective shielding. Please decide for yourself how much shielding is deemed necessary. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with leveling Zhongli to 80 Ascended, as he is one of the best supports in the game and is worth the investment. Lastly, Zhongli's built as a burst support. The recommended weapons are any 5-star, Deathmatch, Black Cliff, Lithic. As for the main stats, similar approach to the physical carry build, but you want to use the geo damage instead of physical damage on the goblet. The best artifact combination is the 2-piece Archaic Petra and the 2-piece Noblesse. As for talent priorities, the order is ultimate, elemental skill, auto attack. For substats, I think it's important to get at least to 165% energy recharge for a high ultimate uptime, and after that, focus on crit, attack, HP. For team setup, this is usually the most important section and it's the most complicated one, but for Zhongli it's actually the easiest one. The reason is because Zhongli cannot go wrong in any team setups, okay? But I will say that his usefulness is more pronounced when you pair him with DPSs that are very fragile or very frame sensitive, namely Ganyu, Hu Tao, Klee, and Xiao, and that's it. The only other thing I'd like to note is that if you can pair him with another great Geo unit like Ning or Albedo, it will immensely help the energy issues of the Geo units in general. Albedo and Zhongli are an incredibly flexible duo that can be an amazing support for any DPSs in the game. I've been BlazeScribe. If you find the video useful, please leave a like and do subscribe for more Genshin Impact content. Have a great one, guys. Bye bye.
And up in the clouds, but I've always felt that something's missing. That was until I found you.